In 2045, Earth is a battlefield where humanity is locked in a desperate struggle against monstrous creatures. The war is brutal, soldiers are overwhelmed and slaughtered in the chaos of battle. The scene is one of utter devastation. A colossal monster with glowing red eyes looms over the survivors. One young soldier looks up in terror as one of the monster's sharp tentacles points directly at him, then lunges. Suddenly, a man swiftly slices the attacking tentacle, saving the soldier. The massive creature roars in agony. The rescuer, a determined man in a military cap, launches a furious assault, slicing through the creature's limbs with his blade. He skillfully evades a counterattack before pulling out a pistol and firing at the monster. After neutralizing the threat, the man tells the soldier he just saved to get up. He is Han Sung, Commander-in-Chief of Earth's Final Defense Force. Humanity has been at war for decades, with few fighters remaining. Han Sung believes their final goal is within reach and prepares to use a glowing device. Suddenly, a golden magic circle appears on the ground, and Han Sung vanishes in a bright light, leaving his rifle behind. The soldier calls out his commander's name in disbelief. Elsewhere, Han Sung finds himself in a dark place, bound by glowing energy chains. He is surrounded by robed figures who are amazed their summoning of the otherworldly hero was successful. Han Sung, struggling, wonders where he is. An elderly man welcomes the hero to their empire and asks him to defeat the Demon King and save their world. Enraged, Han Sung demands to know where he is and who they are, insisting he should be in Korea. In response, the man gestures, and an oath of restraint engulfs Han Sung in agonizing pain, forcing him to scream. The old man calmly tells him not to resist, explaining he would be unharmed if he obeyed. He repeats his plea for Han Sung to defeat the evil Demon King. He then adds that if Han Sung completes this task, they may be able to send him back to his world. With a chilling expression, he asks if Han Sung will accept their request. Bound by the magical restraints, Han Sung glares with pain and resignation. Realizing he has no choice, he reluctantly agrees. He was summoned to a different world to fight as the otherworldly hero of an empire. His new life was a grueling cycle. For a decade, he trained and fought relentlessly, fulfilling the Empire's unending requests until he finally defeated the Demon King, Valror. After 10 long years, he hoped he was finally free, having dreamt every night of returning home. But his hope was shattered when the elderly leader gave him a new mission. The old man callously explained that saving the Empire wasn't over. Dissidents who opposed the Empire's unification still needed to be eliminated. The target was a man named Bottle. The old man promised that if Han Sung eliminated him, he would finally be free, as the oath of restraint flared up around a furious Han Sung once again. Enraged and trapped, Han Sung thinks that a dog with a collar doesn't get to choose. Cursing the bastards who had enslaved him, he prepares for the next fight. The scene shifts to the war-torn Teutonia Night Kingdom, where Han Sung battles his target, Bottle, ultimately striking him down. The wounded knight calls him foolish for obeying the Empire. Han Sung, filled with remorse, states he had no choice. With blood on his lips, Bottle smiles grimly and tells Han Sung not to apologize. In his final moments, he warns Han Sung that soon he too will be discarded by the Empire. Believing his mission is over, Han Sung thinks he can finally go home. But just then, Count Brandenburg appears and impales him from behind with a sword, coldly congratulating him. Gasping in pain, Han Sung recognizes his betrayer. Brandenburg mockingly praises Han Sung for serving well as the Empire's loyal hunting dog. Breathing heavily, Han Sung realizes their promise to send him home was a lie. Brandenburg scoffs, questioning why they would ever let him go, and viciously twists the blade in Han Sung's chest, stating that a hunting dog only knows how to bite. He bids farewell as Han Sung falls, defeated. As his life fades, he curses them for their betrayal. With his last breath, he vows to never forget the humiliation and to make the cursed empire pay with its total annihilation. As he makes this vow, a brilliant blue light erupts from his chest. That night, one life ended and another began. He awakens as a newborn baby, held by a beautiful woman who tells him she is his mother. Behind her stands a man with long, dark hair. The reincarnated Han Sung feels a sense of familiarity. He realizes the man is Duke Saxon, the greatest necromancer on the continent. With this, Han Sung understands he has been reborn in Necropolis, the Empire's headquarters of forbidden magic. A message confirms the Stone of Reincarnation has been successfully activated. He reflects on his plan. The Stone of Reincarnation, a forbidden artifact, was a last resort gamble to break free. The body he would be reborn into was left to fate. he marvels at his luck, realizing he is now the firstborn of the Saxon ducal family, one of the empire's most elite noble houses. Internally, he smiles, thinking he has been born with a golden spoon in his mouth. This fuels his thirst for vengeance. He vows that once he grows up and masters necromancy, he will wipe out every last one of the empire's bastards who betrayed him. His new parents, however, grow concerned because he isn't crying. The Duchess, holding him, worriedly asks the nanny why. The nanny finds it strange but assures them his breathing is stable. Duke Saxon voices his concern that a tearless child might be an ill omen. The nanny dismisses his fears, but then suggests that if they wish for him to cry, they can simply strike his bottom. Without hesitation, the nanny slaps the baby's rear, infuriating Han Sung, who stubbornly refuses to cry. His parents watch, amused, with the Duchess commenting that their son must have inherited the Duke's strong will. The Duchess then takes the baby, saying she will try. His new mother holds him and raises her hand. But instead of another slap, he feels the gentle warmth of a soft hand patting him. The simple, warm touch strikes a deep chord. A flood of memories from his brutal past life washes over him, a life of endless fighting and constant pain. He wonders when he had last felt such genuine warmth. The soft, trembling hand of his new mother radiates a pure, unconditional love he hadn't experienced in years. This overwhelming emotion proves too much. Han Sung, who hadn't shed a tear since he was a child, feels his composure break. As his parents look on in astonishment, he lets out a loud, wailing cry, finally sounding like the newborn he now is. 8 years have passed since Han Sung was reborn as Dale Saxon. His parents, Duke Alan Saxon and the Duchess, reflect on how quickly time has flown. The Duchess remarks that Dale has been inseparable from his books since he was 4. The Duke smiles, and she lovingly suggests Dale's studious nature comes from him. The Duke agrees, noting their son's interest in magic. The Duchess grows serious, reminding him of his promise to never teach Dale necromancy. Meanwhile, in the Grand Library, young Dale, Han Sung's vessel, is engrossed in his studies. In the bedroom, the Duchess is relieved Alan remembers his promise. He assures her he does, and mentions a special gift for Dale's birthday tomorrow. Suddenly, a frantic knocking shatters the calm. A panicked maid bursts in, exclaiming something has happened to Dale. His parents rush down the hall, calling his name in terror. They find Dale in the study, collapsed and enveloped in a surge of blue mana. The Duchess cries out, frantically checking if he's hurt. Dale, dazed, tells her he is fine. Duke Saxon, however, stands back, grim. He is astonished his son can already release such potent mana. Ignoring his wife's pleas, Dale tries to pull away as his father approaches. The Duke towers over his son, asking if he just released mana from his body. Internally, Han Sung panics, realizing his mistake in revealing his power so early. To his surprise, his father's stern expression melts into a proud smile. "As expected of my son," he says, patting Dale's head. He adds that it's a shame he cannot teach Dale necromancy himself. This throws Dale into a new panic. If the continent's greatest necromancer won't teach him, he wonders how he will enact his revenge. His mother gently pats his head, telling him to go to his room. As Dale walks away, he overhears his father refer to his mother as Elena and say he has just thought of the perfect gift for Dale. Shortly after, Dale's 8th birthday banquet is in full swing, with nobles of the Noir Dukedom gathered to celebrate. Dale sits alone on the 2nd floor, looking down at the noisy crowd with a weary expression, overwhelmed by the attention. He reflects that it feels awkward to be treated so warmly after a life of being used. His mind drifts back to the incident 2 days ago when his mana went wild. He now understands it was triggered by reading a book titled The Life of the Hero from Another World, and reminiscing about his own past caused his power to surge. He thinks it would be a waste to give up on necromancy, which he needs for revenge. He racks his brain, trying to figure out how to convince his father to teach him. He remembers his father mentioning a gift, but dismisses asking for lessons as too difficult. His thoughts are interrupted by his mother, Elena, who comes to find him. She approaches with a mysterious hooded figure, smiles warmly, and wishes him a happy birthday. Dale asks who the person behind her is. The figure pulls back their hood, revealing an elf-like woman with striking blue hair and a gentle smile. Elena introduces the woman as Sophia, an elder of the Blue Magic Tower and a master of water attribute magic. To Dale's shock, his mother announces that Sophia will be his new teacher. Sophia bows her head and Elena gives her son a wink. Dale is stunned, realizing his gift is a master from the Blue Magic Tower. This means he'll be learning water magic, a defensive discipline, not the destructive power he seeks. The move makes it clear how strongly his mother opposes him learning dark magic. Sophia asks to speak with Dale privately, and he agrees. They walk along a snowy path outside. Sophia gets straight to the point, confirming she was instructed to only teach him water magic. She shrewdly asks if he is disappointed, stating she believes he wants to learn something else. Dale is taken aback, wondering how she could know his true desire. Sophia smiles, explaining it's natural he would want to learn his father's signature art, necromancy. She then reveals that the conditions surrounding his father's marriage are known throughout the Empire, hinting that this is why his father cannot teach him. Sophia explains the history behind the Duke's promise. When Duke Alan Saxon courted Lady Elena, she was fearful of his dark reputation. To win her heart, he vowed to never pass his dark arts to their children. She recalls their wedding, where the elders of the Noir Magic Tower wore white to symbolize this binding promise. Because of this, Sophia tells Dale that learning dark magic immediately will be difficult. However, she offers hope, promising to find a way to persuade Lady Elena eventually. With a mysterious smile, she asks if he is willing to follow her guidance. Dale is cautious and questions her motives, pointing out that as an elf, she should find necromancy distasteful. Sophia finds his question amusing. She challenges his perspective by bringing up priests who use divine power to bring the dying back to life. She asks if he considers that the will of nature, showing him a vision of a holy resurrection. To her, there is no difference. Necromancy and resurrection are two sides of the same coin. This open-minded response impresses Dale. He realizes Sophia is not like the usual elves and thinks she might be a good master. With that settled, Sophia announces it is time for their first lesson. Acknowledging he has already formed a fragment of a mana circle, she sets his first goal to expand it and complete his very first full circle. Dale is thrilled, knowing this is the foundation for most spells. He sees this as the true beginning of his journey to get strong enough for revenge. Sophia instructs him to place his hand over his heart and focus his mind. Dale follows, closing his eyes as a blue aura of mana envelops him. This new world is saturated with an abundance of mana. To wield this power safely, a living being needs a filter, a mana heart circle. The process involves gathering scattered mana fragments around one's heart, assembling them, and forcing them to rotate in a controlled flow. As he concentrates, Dale understands the concept perfectly. Just as Sophia explained, he visualizes the process and feels a powerful surge as a complete, glowing blue circle of mana forms around his body. Sophia, unaware of his rapid progress, continues her instruction, telling him to begin by carefully rotating the mana. She advises him not to rush, as this usually takes about a month. Dale interrupts her, holding out his hand where streams of blue mana are already flowing with perfect stability. He informs his master that he has just done it. Sophia stares, her eyes wide with utter shock and disbelief, speechless at his unprecedented feat. Sophia is astounded. Dale has only just begun training, yet he formed a complete mana circle in minutes. As she watches him manipulate the crackling blue energy, she wonders if this child is a natural-born prodigy. Still processing his feat, Sophia decides to push him further, asking if he can try to release the mana through the newly formed circle. Dale confidently agrees. As he gathers his mana, Han Sung reflects on the difference between his past and present lives. He knows that simply releasing mana is difficult for most beginners. He remembers that in his previous life, his magical abilities were limited to destruction spells carved into his body. That power was not enough for revenge. This time, however, is different. He was reborn with his father's innate talent, allowing his body to accept mana naturally. He believes he might be able to learn not just water magic, but other types as well. He focuses his will, drawing mana from his circle to his fingertips. A magic circle appears as the mana crystallizes into a sharp projectile. He internally vows this will be the first of many weapons to one day pierce the Empire's throat. He successfully creates a perfect ice bolt. Sophia watches in awe. Mana normally collapses when released from a beginner's body, but Dale has perfectly crystallized it into a proper ice bolt. Dale calmly tells his master that because he focused on the spell's form, its power might be lacking. He then unleashes the spell, firing the ice bolt across the clearing. The bolt strikes a large tree with incredible force, shattering it completely. Sophia is shocked by the display of power. She notes the ice bolt pierced straight through the wood, demonstrating incredible sharpness and solidity. The level of precision and power is something no ordinary 8-year-old should achieve. As Dale turns to her with an innocent smile, Sophia is left with a single, overwhelming thought, wondering who in the world this child truly is. Sophia kneels in the snow, examining the frozen tree trunk. She had expected Dale's first attempt to be a simple release of raw mana. Instead, he had instinctively absorbed the chill from the environment and perfectly incorporated the ice element into his spell. It was basic magic, but the execution was flawless and far beyond a beginner. Seeing his teacher's silence, Dale acts innocent, asking meekly if he did something wrong. Sophia smiles, but her mind is racing. The intricacy of the magic formula he used was too complex for a child to create unconsciously. The spell involved a perfect sequence of rotation, acceleration, and congestion to form the solid projectile. She recognizes this as the golden ratio, the three core formulas of military-grade magic. The fact that he could unconsciously cast such a perfectly lethal spell astounds her. When Dale calls out again, she dismisses his feigned concern. Internally, she admits she understands why Lord Noir found it regrettable that he couldn't teach this boy himself. Later, Sophia reports back to Duke Alan Saxon. The Duke is taken aback, questioning why she implies she can't teach Dale. He argues that if his son reached the first circle in minutes, she should absolutely guide him. Sophia calmly explains that as soon as Dale achieved the first circle, he immediately cast a perfect, lethal spell. The Duke is shocked. Sophia continues, stating it was hard to believe an 8-year-old was capable of such a feat. She explains the spell utilized the military magic formula and was cast in its perfect golden ratio. Looking the Duke in the eyes, she delivers her conclusion. His son, Dale, possesses an innate and profound talent for killing. The Duke misinterprets her, thinking she is refusing to teach his son. He asks if, as an elder of the non-violent Blue Magic Tower, she finds herself unable to teach a child with such a destructive nature. Sophia quickly clarifies that this is not the case. If anything, she feels a compelling urge to guide this gifted child down the right path. The Duke begins to concede, but Sophia brings up the noir magic of the Lord Noir, suggesting Dale already has a different path in mind. The Duke's expression darkens, realizing his son seems to already possess the magic he wishes to learn. Sophia confronts the Duke, telling him she has heard the stories of his courtship of Lady Elena and respects the promise he made to his wife. However, she firmly states that his promise doesn't give him the right to decide his child's future, especially when that child has such a monumental talent. While Sophia and his father are talking, Dale is outside, trying to eavesdrop but unable to hear anything. He slides to the floor, assuming they are talking about him. He reflects on his first lesson, admitting he didn't expect his first spell to be so powerful. He recalls the surprise on Sophia's face and realizes he will have to be more careful about controlling his power. Suddenly, a voice calls his name. He looks up to see a man in shining armor with a friendly smile. Dale's face lights up with joy, and he happily exclaims the man's name, Uncle Helmet. Helmet greets him warmly and asks what he's doing on the floor. Dale playfully asks where Helmet has been. Helmet laughs and explains he has been protecting the ducal family and defeating scary monsters, then scoops the boy into a big hug. As he's being held, Dale correctly guesses Helmet has been fighting in the dungeon. A sad expression flashes across his face as he thinks about the dangers his uncle faces. In this world, dungeons and monsters are grave threats. Knights of each domain dedicate themselves to clearing dungeons. The situation in the Duchy of Saxon is several times more severe than in any other territory. The reason is tied to Han Sung's past life. After the hero defeated the Demon King, Duke Saxon was ordered by the Empire to conquer the former Demon King's territory, subduing the vast number of monsters still there. In technical terms, Dale cynically thinks, this is a classic case of leftover dumping. Back in the present, Dale looks at his uncle with genuine concern and tells him to watch out. Helmet is touched, asking if the young lord is worried. Dale simply replies that Helmet seems to be in good health. Just then, Duke Alan Saxon emerges from the study. Helmet immediately kneels in greeting. The Duke acknowledges the knight and thanks him for his hard work. At that moment, Duchess Elena arrives, surprising Dale. Her face lights up with a bright smile as she calls out her son's name. She rushes to Dale, excitedly telling him she heard he reached the first circle and is incredibly proud. She kneels to his level, and he affectionately rubs his cheek against hers. His father also congratulates him and, feeling generous, tells Dale that if he would like a reward, he should tell him. This puts Dale on the spot. He desperately wants to ask his father to teach him necromancy, but worries that would raise suspicion. He quickly tries to think of what a normal, innocent child would wish for. With a flash of inspiration, he blurts out with childish glee that he wants a little sister. The unexpected request leaves both his parents stunned and blushing furiously. After an awkward moment, the Duke stammers that they will try their best. In the background, Helmut and another knight struggle to hold back their laughter. Later that night, Dale lies in his bed, exhausted from the day. He yawns, thinking how tiring it is to act so childish. He feels a deep fatigue from using magic for the first time in his young body and begins to drift off. Suddenly, his rest is shattered as he is plunged into a horrifying nightmare. He finds himself back in his past life, reliving his betrayal. The spectral image of Count Brandenburg appears, his voice dripping with malice. Brandenburg viciously taunts him, calling him sly and asking if he has grown soft. He mocks him for his new life, asking if being so comfortable has made him forget his vow of revenge. Brandenburg's menacing face looms over him, delivering a chilling threat. The Empire will find him. They will never stop searching until they hunt him down and erase every trace of his existence. The sheer terror of the nightmare rips Dale from his sleep. He wakes with a gasp, bolting upright as a powerful surge of uncontrolled mana erupts from his chest. Dale groans in agony, clutching his chest as the blue mana surges violently. He feels immense, painful pressure, as if his heart is about to explode. He recognizes this as a mana rampage, a dangerous state where a mage loses control of their power. Stumbling, he curses the Empire, frustrated that the trauma of his past life continues to haunt him. Hoping the cold night air might help, Dale runs outside. However, the change of scenery only makes things worse. The mana rampage intensifies, and he gasps for breath. Just as he feels he is about to lose consciousness, a calm voice observes that he seems to be in a tough spot. Startled, Dale looks up to see his teacher, Sophia. Sophia calmly acknowledges the mana rampage, remarking on his incredible talent. However, she also admits she cannot help but feel a profound sense of danger from his magic. She walks towards him and places her hand gently on his chest. As she channels her own calming mana into him, she thinks that if the deep-seated malice she senses within his magic takes over, the change in him will be irreversible. Under her steadying influence, the violent energy subsides, leaving a small, stable orb of mana in Dale's hands. He looks down, relieved. Sophia then calls his name, her expression serious. She gives him a stark assessment of his abilities, telling him his talent is not for creation or healing, but for taking the lives of others. It is, she states, a very dangerous talent. She then presents him with a thick, dark book marked with a pentagram. She explains that his dangerous nature is why she finds it fortunate that she will be the one to teach him, before handing the tome to him. Dale is stunned. As he holds the book, dark energy swirls from its pages, and he instantly recognizes it as a magic tome on necromancy. Sophia smiles gently, suggesting that perhaps it was fate that she would be with him. In a soft voice, she wishes him a happy birthday once more. Overwhelmed by her unexpected acceptance and the profound gift, Dale impulsively rushes forward and wraps his arms around her waist in a tight hug. Her expression softens, and she gently pats his back, teasingly calling him a needy one. A few days later, Sophia takes Dale out to the snowy plains for his next lesson. She tells him his target for the day will be rabbits. Dale seems surprised, but Sophia confirms it, instructing him to recall hunting with his father and to channel that focus into his magic. Dale agrees, forming a magic circle. He spots a white rabbit, and with intense concentration, launches a sharp ice projectile at it. The spell hits its mark with lethal force, tearing the rabbit apart. Sophia watches with a clinical expression, noting that despite taking a life, Dale's hands do not waver. There is no hesitation or remorse in his actions. She calls out to him and begins a new lesson, explaining that even when casting the same spell, its form varies from one mage to another. She asks if he knows why. Dale honestly admits he does not. Sophia smiles and reveals the reason. Magic is a mirror that reflects their mind. It is a materialization of what lies in their heart, brought forth through mana. She demonstrates her own gentle water magic, concluding that magic reveals the landscape of one's inner self. Dale listens silently, a bead of sweat on his temple as he processes her words. Sophia explains that spell names like Firewall are just stepping stones to help a mage solidify a mental image. The magic taught in the Great Magic Towers follows this principle. She uses different towers as examples. The Red Magic Tower's fire magic is aggressive and destructive, while her own Blue Magic Tower's water magic is fluid and adaptable. Each tower's philosophy is projected into the form their magic takes. She adds that there are also the Noir, White, and Green Magic Towers, each with its own distinct philosophy. After her explanation, she smiles, then decides this philosophical discussion is still too early for her young student. Having provided a corpse, Sophia moves on to Dale's first necromancy lesson. The most basic dark art is raising a zombie. Dale reaches out, and dark, shadowy mana flows from him towards the dead rabbit. He skillfully attaches mana strings to the rabbit's key motor functions, the head, spine, and knees, and forces the dead creature to its feet. The reanimated rabbit's eyes glow red, a sign of his success. Sophia, impressed, praises him. She asks if he is ready for the next step, and he confidently agrees. His new task is to apply a defensive spell, Frozen Armor, to his new undead minion. He concentrates, his blue mana crackling around him, then unleashes a surge of ice magic, causing jagged ice shards to form around the zombie rabbit. In moments, the creature is encased in formidable crystalline armor. Sophia assesses his work, noting his execution is decent and the form is proper. To test his creation, she announces she will test its defense. She creates a powerful ice bolt of her own and fires it at the armored zombie. The bolt strikes with tremendous force, but the frozen armor holds, shattering at the impact point but protecting the creature within. Dale's face breaks into a joyous smile, exclaiming that he successfully blocked his master's attack. Sophia gives him a nod of approval, commending him for his excellent work. Seeing his eager look, Sophia asks if there is something he wants. Dale's enthusiasm bubbles over, and with a determined expression, he makes an unexpected request. He asks his master to not only teach him the dark arts, but to also properly instruct him on how he can better utilize his water attribute magic as well. To Dale's hopeful request, Sophia responds with a faint, unreadable smile before delivering a single crushing word. No. Dale is left completely speechless and shocked by her blunt refusal. Sophia explains her reasoning. She points out that the spell he performed was still a basic form of water magic. The water attribute demands deeper insight and a higher level of understanding as a mage's skills develop. She reminds him that for most beginners, mastering even one type of magic is incredibly difficult. To handle two different types simultaneously is the mark of a rare dual mage, a feat she considers nearly impossible for a child his age. From her professional point of view, his request seems like excessive and unrealistic ambition. Dale feigns shock, questioning her use of the word ambition. He then adopts a wounded expression, reminding her that she had promised they would find their path forward together. He subtly implies that by refusing, she is already going back on her word. The clever, guilt-inducing tactic hits its mark. Sophia becomes visibly flustered and, unable to counter his emotional appeal, abruptly declares that the day's lesson is over. That night, Dale is not deterred. He retreats to the massive study with a heavy stack of books. Filled with determination, he tells himself there is nothing he can't accomplish on his own. He vows to study and prove himself so thoroughly that Sophia will have no choice but to teach him both water magic and necromancy. A powerful aura of dark purple magic emerges and swirls around him, lifting him and the books into the air as he begins a night of intense, solitary training. After his sleepless night, a voice repeatedly calls his name. He looks up to see Sophia, who has found him in the snowy plains again. She looks at him with concern, remarking that he looks as if he didn't sleep. Dale, putting on a cheerful facade, explains he stayed up to prepare something for her. Sophia gently advises him not to overexert himself, but Dale simply smiles and tells her he is ready, eager to show her his hard work. To demonstrate, Dale confidently summons a dark magic circle and gestures towards the armored zombie rabbit. Sophia looks on with an impressed smile, acknowledging that in just one night he has mastered the basic technique. But Dale's demonstration is far from over. Suddenly, the frozen armor encasing the rabbit begins to crack and glow before violently erupting outwards. The armor shatters, sending a volley of sharp ice projectiles flying in all directions. Sophia is surprised, recognizing the advanced spell as an ice explosion. Her shock deepens as she realizes the zombie rabbit is now channeling a sphere of volatile dark energy between its paws. The rabbit then unleashes the sphere in a powerful blast. The dark energy detonates, triggering a second, more powerful explosion that propels the shattered ice projectiles forward in a devastating combination attack. Completely shocked by this complex and deadly spell, Sophia is forced to quickly summon a hexagonal magic barrier to protect herself. As the dust settles, she stares at her student in stunned silence, her barrier still shimmering. Dale calmly explains that he combined two separate spells, Corpse Explosion and Ice Explosion, successfully merging the water and dark attributes into a single attack. To prove his point, he effortlessly summons an orb of water magic in one hand and a swirl of dark energy in the other. With a confident smile, he asks his master if a feat like this is enough for him to be considered a dual mage. Sophia stands within her protective barrier, stunned by Dale's devastation. She has never seen such an attack method before. The spell was a masterful combination, using the corpse explosion for a wider area of effect while simultaneously blasting ice and bone fragments from the frozen armor outwards like deadly blades. After the attack, Sophia kneels in the snow, examining the sharp ice fragments. She reflects that Dale's magic is not creative, it is purely designed to kill, the kind of magic she would expect from someone who dedicated their life to the battlefield. She wonders what kind of horrific mental image this child must possess to create such lethal spells. As Sophia is lost in thought, Dale's expression changes to shock and then delight. He happily calls out to his uncle Helmut, who is approaching on horseback. Helmut, leading a troop of armored knights, greets his young master and Sophia warmly. Dale excitedly asks if he has just returned from raiding a dungeon. Helmut confirms his men have just finished subduing a group of monsters. These knights are the Black Cavalry, the unrivaled elite forces of the Dukedom of Saxon, renowned for their ability to cover their lances in aura. Their captain, Sir Helmut, is one of the 7 most powerful swordmasters on the continent. Seizing the opportunity, Dale puts on a charming smile, reminding Helmut of his promise to teach him sword techniques. Helmut laughs and assures Dale that he is not forgotten. As he and his cavalry ride away, Helmut tells Dale not to stay out in the cold for too long. Once the knights have departed, Sophia tells Dale it is time for them to return to the estate. Dale obediently agrees, addressing her as his master. That night, Sophia meets with Duke Alan Saxon and Duchess Elena. She calmly reports that their son, Dale, has successfully mastered his first circle in both necromancy and water magic. The Duke and Duchess are shocked. Duke Alan reminds Sophia their request was for her to teach him only water magic. Sophia acknowledges this, but explains that as his mentor, she felt it was her duty to teach him whatever he wished to learn, and his ambition went beyond a single magical attribute. Hearing this, Duchess Elena concedes. She formally requests that if Dale wishes it, Sophia should continue to teach him water magic. Sophia agrees, promising to take care of him. As she leaves, she apologizes to the Duke for breaking her promise. After Sophia has departed, Elena marvels at how extraordinary their child is, unable to believe he became a dual mage at 8. The Duke agrees, admitting that while his son's power can be frightening, he has to be capable since he is their child. This leads the Duke to a momentous decision. He tells his wife he would like to teach Dale necromancy himself. He wants to give their son the strength to fulfill the duties of a lord, and as a mage, he desires such a talented disciple. Most importantly, as a father, he wants his son to inherit his legacy. Overcome with emotion, he apologizes to Elena for breaking the vow he made to her so long ago. Elena listens with a serious expression, acknowledging the public's poor perception of necromancy and that people fear it, which is why she had always wanted to dissuade him. However, seeing her husband's determination, her resolve softens. She pulls him into a warm, supportive hug and tells him that if he is going to do this, he must train Dale to become a necromancer so powerful that he can ignore what others think. Moved, the Duke embraces his wife tightly. He swears on everything that he will train their son to become the very best. The first day of Dale's special necromancy training begins in the magic workshop deep beneath the ducal castle. His father, Duke Alan Saxon, starts the lesson by expressing his severe disappointment in him. He questions how his son can be reviving the dead without understanding the fundamental principles of what he is controlling. They stand in the dark chamber with a dead rabbit on a central stone table. Dale defends himself, explaining he only does what Sophia has taught him. Duke Alan strictly forbids Dale from using such rudimentary spells under his tutelage. Instead of practical magic, the Duke's training begins with intense academic study. He sits Dale at a desk piled with thick books, instructing him to memorize the complete bone and muscle structures of all life forms. After diligent study, Dale successfully memorizes every word from the advanced anatomical texts. Acknowledging his son's accomplishment, Duke Alan presents him with a large tome, stating the basics are complete and it is time for practical magic. However, Dale's eyes widen in surprise when he sees the subject for his practical lesson, the corpse of a goblin. Noticing his son's confusion, the Duke smirks. He explains the difference between a novice and a master necromancer. An untrained warlock can only make a powerful swordmaster's corpse shamble like a zombie, whereas a skilled individual can transform an ordinary soldier into a mighty death knight. Gesturing to the goblin, the Duke presents it as a simple undead soldier and challenges his son, asking how he will choose to animate it. Faced with his father's challenge, Dale concentrates, his young body enveloped in a swirling vortex of purple mana. He internally notes the difficulty. A bipedal goblin is far more complex than a small rabbit. With a burst of energy, he shoots a purple mana string into the goblin's corpse, beginning the reanimation. Dale struggles with the intricate task, feeling like he is manipulating a complicated puppet. In an attempt to bolster the creature's defenses, he uses his magic to accelerate post-mortem rigidity, but he quickly realizes his error. The goblin's joints and muscles have stiffened, rendering it immobile. Just then, his father, Duke Allen, places a calming hand on his shoulder. The Duke explains that while hardening the body was a good idea, its primary side effect is the severe limitation of movement. With his own eyes glowing with power, the Duke simply tells his son to watch. He unleashes an immense torrent of dark, swirling magic that engulfs the goblin. Dale can only watch in shock and awe. The goblin levitates, reanimated and crackling with potent purple energy. The Duke begins his lesson, explaining that a rib cage is meant to protect internal organs. However, there is no need to protect the organs of the dead. As he speaks, his magic violently reshapes the goblin's skeleton. The rib cage bursts outward, transforming into a set of long, sharp bone blades protruding from its chest. With a sinister smile, the Duke imparts the core principle of his art. A necromancer must understand their target's structure and alter it to suit their needs. Dale is left speechless, a bead of sweat running down his face as he stares in wide-eyed shock at this profound and terrifying revelation. Standing beside the grotesquely transformed goblin, Duke Allen Saxon concludes his demonstration, declaring that this principle of understanding and altering a body's structure is the foundation of black magic. Deeply affected, Dale looks up at his father with a new sense of purpose. He asks his father to teach him the core philosophy, the mindset of the Noir Magic Tower. A pleased smile spreads across the Duke's face, satisfied with his son's insightful request. He asks Dale if it is the truth that he seeks. Kneeling down to look his son in the eye, the Duke imparts the central tenet of their beliefs, stating that the truth always exists within death. He explains that to reach this truth, they must first understand the weight of life. These words trigger a vivid flashback for Dale. He is once again Han Sung, the hero, on a battlefield littered with fire and bodies. A man kneels before him, begging for his life. Ignoring the plea, Han Sung raises his blood-stained sword and mercilessly cuts the man down as he screams. The traumatic memory shatters Dale's composure. Back in the present, his father calls his name, concerned. The Duke asks if he is all right, noting he suddenly looks unwell. Dale is pale and sweating, his eyes wide with horror. He struggles to speak, stammering that he is fine. An image of his past, hardened self, flashes in his mind as he repeats more firmly that he is fine. Alone in the dark workshop, he stands rigidly, the world seeming to tilt around him as he silently reaffirms that he is, in fact, fine. As Dale's daily magic training with his father progresses, the news that Duke Allen Saxon has begun teaching his son dark arts spreads throughout the Empire. The Duke's breaking of a sacred vow to his wife has caused a massive uproar among the nobility. Consequently, Dale has become the subject of intense scrutiny from nobles and mages across the Empire, from a sly, red-haired young man to a stern, gray-haired lord and a cunning witch. A few weeks later, Dale's training has shifted to swordsmanship, and he is sparring with his uncle Helmet. The clash of their wooden swords echoes as they engage in a fast-paced duel. Helmet, a seasoned swordmaster, easily blocks Dale's strikes with a confident smile. Unfazed, Dale stares intently, looking for an opening. Helmet smirks, impressed by his nephew's tenacity, and presses his attack. Dale skillfully evades a powerful swing and then launches into a stunning airborne counterattack, spinning to strike his uncle from an unexpected angle. The move catches Helmet completely by surprise, his expression turning to shock. Dale's blow is precise, knocking the wooden sword from the master swordsman's grasp. As Dale catches his breath, Helmet laughs heartily, praising him for a good fight. However, Dale astutely points out that a knight of Helmet's caliber would not simply drop his sword, correctly guessing that his uncle let go on purpose. Helmet insists that was not the case, explaining he was genuinely surprised. He tells Dale he used sword techniques meant for actual battle, which would have killed a normal person. Helmet comments that Dale's swordsmanship is so excellent that it feels sad he is destined to be a mage. He tries to reassure Dale, telling him that mages are always protected by escort knights, and that he has no real need to train so hard in combat. Placing a comforting hand on his nephew's shoulder, Helmet asks why he is pushing himself so hard. Kneeling before his nephew, Helmet gently tends to Dale's bandaged hands, telling him there is no need to push himself to the point of injury. Looking at his own hands, Dale firmly replies that there is a reason. With a confident grin, he explains that it wouldn't be fitting for the Duke's son to rely only on guards and defensive magic for protection. He adds with charming flattery that he could never pass up the rare opportunity to learn swordsmanship from one of the 7 most powerful swordmasters on the continent. Helmet roars with laughter, calling Dale's answer magnificent and declaring that if he had a son like him, he would have no regrets. Dale playfully celebrates, happy to have earned such high praise. Their cheerful moment is interrupted by the arrival of Duchess Elena, who observes they both seem to be in high spirits. Dale greets his mother warmly and asks what brings her out. She smiles, explaining that she wanted to see how hard her son was working and that she has some news to share. She then asks Dale if he remembers the birthday present he had asked for. Dale looks pensive, trying to recall. A flashback reveals the moment he had impulsively asked for a little sister, leaving his parents stunned and blushing. The memory floods back, and Dale's eyes widen in shock. Elena, glowing with happiness and placing a gentle hand on her stomach, delivers the news. She tells Dale that he will need to take good care of his young sibling. The shock on Dale's face is replaced by pure joy. He promises his mother that he will take great care of them. 10 months later, in a lavishly decorated bedroom, the Saxon family gathers around the newest member. Dale is completely captivated by his baby sister, leaning over the bed to get a closer look as his parents watch. Duchess Elena teases him, asking if he finds the baby that fascinating, and Dale agrees. He gently touches the baby's cheek, marveling that it still feels unreal that she is his sister. He is completely smitten, thinking how incredibly cute she is. Seeing his son's adoration, Duke Alan asks if he would like to hold her. Dale is completely flustered. His mother encourages him as she gently places the swaddled baby into his arms. Dale finds that holding her isn't as difficult as he had imagined. The Duke asks what he thinks, commenting that the baby looks just like him. Elena adds that it's strange how the baby cries every time she holds her, but not once with Dale, remarking that she seems quite happy in his arms. Dale looks down at his sister with a gentle, fond expression. His father then asks him how he feels now. Dale's expression suddenly turns serious. He tells his father that while she is as light as a feather, she also feels incredibly heavy. A knowing smile graces the Duke's face as he tells his son that what he is feeling is the weight of life. He places a hand on Dale's shoulder, instructing him to never forget that feeling. Just then, Elena cheerfully interrupts, reminding Dale that it's time for his lesson and that Sophia is surely waiting. The scene shifts to a snowy forest where Sophia stands waiting for her student. She informs Dale that their lesson for the day will be real combat practice. Dale, looking a bit nervous, asks if he can really fight her seriously. Sophia encourages him to come at her with his full strength. Accepting the challenge, Dale summons a glowing blue magic circle. Sophia, surrounded by crackling water magic, says she is eager to see how much he has improved. Dale immediately launches an attack, firing 2 large, sharp ice projectiles at her. However, Sophia effortlessly destroys the first projectile, dismissing it as too slow, and then casually deflects the second. Holding a shard of his shattered spell, she looks at him with a sly, challenging smile and scolds him, questioning how a student could dare to go easy on his master. Dale is left speechless, realizing he has been completely seen through. Speechless, Dale looks on with a determined expression. Sophia warns him to put up a barrier quickly before launching a powerful blast of water magic at him. Dale's eyes widen in panic as the attack rushes toward him. The magical energy impacts with tremendous force. Dale manages to block the attack at the last second, examining the shattered ice gauntlet that formed around his arm. He thinks to himself that if he hadn't blocked that, he would have been seriously hurt. Sophia, with a calm, impressed smile, commends him for forming an ice armor in such a short moment. As the ice armor crumbles away, Dale stands his ground, ready for the next exchange. Sophia encourages him to come at her again. In response, Dale places his hands on the snowy ground, focusing his magic. He channels his mana and summons a massive, glittering wall of solid ice that erupts from the ground between them. Sophia is taken aback by the sudden appearance of the immense structure, questioning why he would cast an ice wall in the middle of a battle. She notes that by enhancing the mana structure, he has dramatically increased the ice's density, making it incredibly strong. She reaches out to touch the wall, wondering why he would cast a defensive spell now, speculating that he might need a break. However, she suddenly senses something is wrong with the mana flowing through the ice. Looking closer, she sees the wall is constructed with a hexagonal mana barrier and recognizes it as a frost explosion and fragmentation formula. From behind the wall, Dale, with intense concentration, gives a single command. He tells the wall to detonate. The entire structure explodes in a blinding flash of blue light. Sophia is caught completely off guard, her face a mask of pure shock as the blast engulfs her. As the dust settles, Dale stands amidst the wreckage, triumphant. He recounts the complex spell he just used. He condensed an ice wall, strengthening the molecules before compressing them, effectively turning it into a powerful grenade. He thinks it would have been difficult for his master to avoid. However, as the mist clears, his confidence turns to fear. He sees a figure that appears to be Sophia, frozen solid. He calls her name in panic, but the real Sophia appears beside the ice statue, asking if he called. Dale is startled, realizing the frozen figure was an illusion. Sophia dispels the decoy and praises Dale's technique. She touches a small cut on her cheek, marveling that a first circle mage could wound an elder of the magic tower. Dale becomes apologetic, insisting he never meant to hurt her. To his surprise, Sophia tells him she is grateful for the wound. She explains it means he trusted her enough to use his full strength, and as his master, that makes her incredibly proud. She affectionately ruffles his hair, asking how he came up with such a spell. Dale, beaming, replies it was all thanks to what she had taught him. Sophia looks at him with a warm smile. Later, Sophia reports to Duke Alan Saxon. He immediately notices the wound on her cheek. Sophia explains she was careless while teaching Dale, admitting his spell was extraordinarily sharp. The Duke looks concerned, telling Sophia he is indebted to her. Sophia dismisses his concern, stating that teaching a talented student like him is a joy. The Duke then says he has one more request. His expression turns serious. He informs her they have received reports of orcs crossing the mountain range into their territory. While it's a minor threat, he reveals his true intention. He plans to send Dale into this battle. The news shocks Sophia, who immediately protests that Dale is not ready for real combat. Duke Alan Saxon dismisses Sophia's concerns, explaining Dale will not be on the front lines. A powerful dark aura flares around him as he declares that defending the territory is House Saxon's sworn duty, and as the heir, Dale must accept that responsibility. Seeing his resolve, Sophia asks what he needs her to do. The Duke's demeanor softens. He reveals his plan. He will entrust Dale with a powerful artifact from their family's collection and requests that Sophia guide his son until he learns to control its immense power. Artifacts are objects imbued with incredible power and a will of their own. They require a payment of either the wielder's mana or life force. The stronger an artifact, the more dangerous it becomes, and wielding one can be fatal. The scene shifts to Dale, his father, and Sophia walking down a grand corridor. The Duke states that House Saxon has long since mastered handling such powerful items as they arrive at the family's artifact vault. He turns to his son, officially informing him that as the heir, he must prepare for battle. Dale is initially shocked, but his surprise quickly turns to excitement. Before they enter, the Duke adds a condition. First, Dale must learn to control the power of darkness their family wields. He opens the doors, revealing a vast chamber filled with countless artifacts. Dale is left in awe. The Duke presents the Demon King artifacts, which their ancestors have managed since conquering the Demon King's domain. He warns his son to never compare them to ordinary artifacts, and Dale can feel the intense mana radiating from every item. The Duke confirms they are all extremely dangerous and strictly warns Dale not to touch anything until he learns to control them. However, as he gives this warning, he and Sophia realize Dale is no longer with them. The Duke turns in a panic, only to see that his son has already wandered off into the vault, asking exasperatedly where he could have gone. A moment before, Dale is already wandering through the vault, searching for a suitable item. The sentient dark artifacts call out to him. A shield offers to help him kill his enemies, while rings and trinkets promise to help him reach new heights of power. Dale pauses, feeling the artifacts resonating with the resentment from his past life. With a confident smile, he dismisses them. This level of power isn't enough. He needs something far stronger for his revenge. He then notices a dark, hooded cloak draped over a display case. He recognizes it as a shadow cloak, a top-grade artifact used by Duke Berta of the Demon King's army. It has the terrifying ability to give form to shadows, making its wielder a difficult opponent. Without a thought, Dale decides to try it on. Just as he slips it over his shoulders, his father and Sophia find him, shouting his name in alarm. But it is too late. Dark tendrils erupt from the cloak, wrapping around Dale. He is pulled into a dark void, where a powerful voice echoes, repeatedly crying out that it is hungry. This is no ordinary shadow. Its previous wielder can command darkness as a living entity. To control it, the new host has to force the shadow creature within into complete submission. Realizing this, Dale faces the challenge with a determined smirk. In response, a monstrous creature of pure darkness descends upon him to begin the trial of wills. As the monstrous shadow creature descends, Dale focuses his will. Outside the void, Duke Alan and Sophia watch as the shadow cloak envelops Dale completely, forming a massive sphere of pure darkness. Time passes, and the Duke's concern grows. He explains to Sophia that if the trial continues, Dale will lose his sanity and be devoured by the shadow creature. Alarmed, Sophia asks what they can do. The Duke declares they will have to pull Dale out by force. However, just as he is about to intervene, the dark sphere pulses violently. With an explosive burst, the shadows dissipate, revealing Dale standing in the center, unharmed, now wearing the artifact cloak. He calmly emerges from the darkness and answers his father's call. Sophia rushes to his side, anxiously asking if he is all right. Dale reassures her he is fine, adding with a cheerful grin that the ordeal has only stung a little. His casual demeanor leaves Sophia stunned. She can't comprehend how he can be so unscathed. She wonders how a child can endure the mental pressure of taming such a malevolent artifact. Having conquered his first Demon King artifact, Dale turns to his father. With a bright, innocent expression, he asks if he can try on the other artifacts as well. The absurd request leaves both the Duke and Sophia speechless. After a long sigh, the Duke reluctantly gives his permission. Overjoyed, Dale thanks him and dashes off to continue his exploration, a process that will take him all day and night. A few days later, on the ducal family's training grounds, Helmut looks at his nephew with a shocked and worried expression, asking if the infamous artifact Dale is wearing is truly the Shadow Cloak. Dale cheerfully confirms that it is. Still concerned, Helmut reminds him that the artifact is said to be incredibly difficult to control. Dale casually dismisses his uncle's worries, explaining that aside from a slight prickling sensation, there is nothing wrong. Dale then offers a fanciful explanation, suggesting that perhaps the cloak has just been lonely. To demonstrate, a small, toothy shadow creature emerges from the darkness at his feet. Dale claims that the cloak clings to him, perhaps just wanting to be friends. Helmut bursts into laughter at the absurd notion, telling his nephew he is far too kind-hearted. As he laughs, the shadow creature seems to let out an indignant scream. With a proud smile, Dale thanks his uncle for the compliment, then nonchalantly steps on the shadow creature's head. Having settled the matter, Dale tells his uncle he has a request, a real sparring match as combat practice, a proposal that surprises Helmut. The Swordmaster's surprise quickly turns into delighted excitement. He eagerly agrees, his body surging with a powerful blue aura. Faced with the immense aura of one of the continent's 7 Swordmasters, Dale feels a wave of pressure. Helmut, noticing his apprehension, offers a reassuring smile and promises to face him using only basic swordsmanship, with no aura involved. Dale's expression hardens. He internally questions if his uncle truly means to go easy on him, knowing a knight's creed is to always fight sincerely. However, he has a hidden agenda. As shadows emerge from the ground, he reveals his true goal. The spar is a chance to practice using the Shadow Cloak in real combat. The power of the weapons he can form from its shadow creatures will determine the artifact's true worth, making this battle a necessary test. With his plan set, Dale unleashes his first attack, a Shadow Blade Rush, sending a volley of sharp, dark projectiles toward his uncle. In response, Helmut simply swings his massive sword in a single, powerful arc, shattering the attack with pure strength. Dale can only watch, stunned and in awe of his uncle's incredible power, realizing he destroyed the magical strike with physical prowess alone. Impressed, Helmut lets out a booming laugh, praising the excellent strike. He then announces it is his turn and rushes forward with incredible speed. Dale skillfully evades his uncle's first swing and immediately counters, manipulating the shadows from his cloak to surround Helmut. A barrage of sharp shadow spikes erupts from the ground, aiming to trap the Swordmaster. Helmut, however, is unfazed. He finds the surprise attack fascinating and simply grips one of the spikes with his gauntlet, stopping it with ease. Dale is shocked by his uncle's raw strength. Helmut then leaps high, bringing his massive sword down in a devastating overhead swing. Dale is forced to create a shadow shield to block the powerful blow. The impact is immense, sending Dale skidding backward and cracking the training ground. Helmut lands, shocked that his nephew blocked an attack that could break ordinary swords in two. Dale, in turn, realizes the vast difference in power between a regular weapon and the artifact he now wields. Fired up, Helmet calls for 10 more exchanges, and the two clash once again. Watching from the sidelines, the other knights murmur in disbelief. They note that none among them had ever lasted more than 2 exchanges against their captain, Helmet. They feel an overwhelming gap in skill between themselves and the young master, Dale. A few days later, on the night of the deployment, Duchess Elena makes one last attempt to change her son's mind. She tells Dale she will speak to his father again, insisting she cannot let him go to such a dangerous place. Dale, standing beside her as she holds his baby sister, tries to reassure his mother, reminding her that his father and Uncle Helmet will be there to protect him. Elena remains deeply worried. Dale's expression turns serious. He tells his mother he needs to become stronger so that one day he can bear the weight of the dukedom. He gently pats his sleeping sister, explaining that when that time comes, he will need the strength to protect her, their mother, and their father. He concludes that is why he needs this experience now. Looking up at his mother with earnest eyes, Dale implores her to allow him to become strong enough to protect her. Moved, Elena's worried expression softens into a loving smile. She relents, agreeing to let him go. With her blessing, she tells her son to go forth. Dale mounts his horse and promises his mother he will be back soon. At dawn, at a temporary military base, the troops are assembled. Helmet reports to Duke Alan Saxon that the soldiers are prepared. The Duke acknowledges the report and then turns to his son, surprising Dale by telling him to give the order to march in his stead. He explains that their proud Black Cavalry Corps will one day be Dale's to command. As his father declares that these are his knights, Dale is struck by a profound realization. These soldiers belong to Dale, not to Han Sung, the battle-worn hero from his past life. A new sense of purpose fills him. This will be his first battle as their leader, and he vows to himself that this time things will be different. Riding to the front, Dale knows the time has come. With a powerful voice, he raises a fist and gives the command, telling the proud swords of House Saxon to march forth. In perfect unison, the knights raise their weapons and respond with a thunderous roar, acknowledging their young master's command. As the troops march through the forest, the details of the operation are laid out. The force consists of 250 cavalrymen, supported by the elite Winter Wardens. Their target is a horde of roughly 1,000 orcs. The plan is to strike first by crossing the lower part of the treacherous, fast-flowing river and launching a surprise ambush. The commander recognizes there is only one way for their 250 men to cross such a deep river quickly. Just then, Sophia appears before them, her presence surrounded by a gentle flurry of magical snow. She asks them to step aside, announcing she will form a bridge of ice for them. Dale is overjoyed to see his master, deeply touched that she would come to aid them, especially given her philosophy of nonviolence. With a powerful display of her magic, Sophia freezes the rushing water, creating a massive, sturdy bridge of solid ice. Gesturing to her creation, she tells the troops they can pass. As the Duke and Dale begin to ride across, Sophia wishes them victory. The Duke expresses his gratitude. Dale turns back to his master and tells her he will be going now. Sophia watches silently as her young student rides away. After he is gone, Sophia finds it strange that tears are welling in her eyes. With a fond, slightly sad smile, she reflects on how much her student makes her worry. The battle starts at the temporary orc base, a crude camp in a ravine. The surprise attack begins as the elite archer unit, the Winter Wardens, launches their ambush. They unleash a volley of fire arrows, engulfing the camp in flames and chaos. The assault causes immense damage, leaving many orcs dead, but a massive survivor lets out a furious roar. Seizing the moment, Helmet commands the cavalry battalions to charge. The Knights of the Black Cavalry form a wedge and surge forward with lances lowered. Watching from a nearby cliff, Duke Alan Saxon, Helmet, and Dale observe the battle. Helmet asks the young master for his thoughts. Dale internally analyzes the charge with a veteran's eye, noting that with their lances enhanced by aura in the Kull Lance formation, the orcs stand no chance. He concludes the attack is one-sided. His father, Duke Alan, confirms this is the power their cavalry prides itself on. Helmet, however, cautions Dale not to relax, as this is only the beginning. On the battlefield, the surviving orcs quickly form a defensive line with their shields. The Black Cavalry crashes into them with devastating force. Helmet assesses the situation, deciding they will retreat, reorganize, and finish the job with rotating charges. A magical signal is fired, and Helmet orders all units to fall back. The cavalry begins their tactical retreat. The withdrawal leaves the orcs confused. As the cavalry pulls back, the orcs spot a lone knight trying to flee and prepare their spears. The orcs successfully impale the knight's horse, throwing the rider to the ground. Watching from the cliff, Dale's expression is grim as he quietly remarks that the situation is unfortunate. Beside him, Helmut coldly states that one knight is down. Dale is disturbed, questioning why they consider the man beyond saving. He is horrified that one of the proud swords of House Saxon is being abandoned, especially as a large orc approaches the downed knight with an axe. Unable to contain his anger, Dale demands to know why they are just watching. Both Duke Allen and Helmut remain silent and stern. As the orc charges the fallen knight, Dale knows he won't make it in time if he rides down. He understands he will need to pierce the orc's tough hide in a single powerful shot. He reflects that an orc's skin is far thicker than other monsters and decides he must modify the standard ice bolt formula. He incorporates a high-precision projectile formula for sniping and adds a ballistic trajectory equation for stability. With his new formula complete, Dale summons a complex magic circle, concentrating his mana into a spell he has named Ice Bolt Barrett M98B. Just as the orc raises its weapon to strike the downed knight, Dale unleashes his attack. A brilliant beam of ice magic shoots across the battlefield, piercing the orc's head with lethal accuracy. Watching from beside him, Duke Allen and Helmut are left in stunned silence. The Duke remarks on the incredible accuracy from such a distance. Without hesitation, Dale spurs his horse and charges down into the fray. Helmut calls out in alarm, but Duke Allen stops him, calmly telling him to let his son be. The Duke watches with a proud, knowing smile, marveling that his son could craft an original, destructive magic formula at such a young age. He believes this proves Dale's inner world must already be near completion. Down on the battlefield, Dale assesses his new, more dangerous situation as the other orcs begin to regroup. He realizes he is now facing two problems. He sees the downed knight is still recovering, having frozen in panic. He also recognizes his powerful spell formula is too long for close-range combat. He knows he needs to shorten his magic, like simplifying a mathematical equation. As the next orc charges, Dale formulates a new, faster version of his spell. Realizing he needs an even faster spell, Dale quickly simplifies his formula further. Deciding it will have to do, he unleashes his newest creation with a confident smirk, a spell he simply calls Ice Bullet. Just as another orc charges the terrified knight, Dale fires his spell from horseback. The powerful ice projectile strikes the orc's head, which explodes in a shower of gore. The headless body collapses in front of the stunned knight. He looks up in disbelief, recognizing his young master, and questioning why Dale would risk himself for him. Dale calmly dismounts and tells the knight not to worry. With a reassuring smile, he declares that House Saxon never abandons a loyal sword. The knight is moved, but their moment is cut short as more orcs charge. Unfazed, Dale raises his hand, and a potent purple energy gathers. He unleashes the power of his shadow cloak, casting a spell called Shadow Blade. A torrent of sharp, dark tendrils erupts from the ground, effortlessly slicing through the charging orcs. With a dark, satisfied smile, Dale gives a final, chilling command for the shadows to consume them. A lone surviving orc looks on in confusion before a massive vortex of pure darkness appears and completely engulfs it. The shadows from Dale's cloak are merciless. One dark tendril cleanly decapitates an orc, while another shadow creature chomps down on a second, leaving the remaining orc trembling in terror. In a gruesome display, the shadows completely devour their victim, leaving only a clean skeleton behind. Dale turns to the last terrified orc and greets it with a cheerful smile. He casually fires another ice bullet, dispatching the final threat before wiping a splatter of blood from his cheek. He turns to the rescued knight and states that it's done. The knight, still in shock, can only stammer the young master's name. The knight admits his legs won't move, and Dale gives him a slightly strained smile. Deciding on a direct approach, he effortlessly lifts the grown man into his arms, announcing with a bright smile that they made it. Just then, Helmut arrives with the rest of the Black Cavalry. Dale looks at his uncle and says he will leave the rest to him. Inspired, Helmut orders the cavalry battalions into a full charge. With renewed vigor, the knights thunder past, shouting their fierce loyalty not just to House Saxon, but specifically to their young master Dale. Soon after, back at the Saxon base camp, the orc subjugation is declared a success. Duke Allen Saxon summons his son to his tent and tells Dale he has something to ask. With a stern expression, he demands to know why Dale rushed into the enemy lines alone, questioning why he would do something so incredibly reckless. Dale is bewildered by the sharp reprimand, wondering why he is being scolded after saving a man's life. Inside the command tent, Duke Allen sternly demands an explanation. Dale respectfully replies that he was fulfilling his future duty, reminding his father that the knights were the men he would one day lead. The Duke isn't impressed and calls his reasoning weak. Dale is surprised, as he had always known his father to cherish his knights. Gathering his courage, Dale asks his father why he stood by and watched his knight die. The Duke explains the harsh reality of their domain. It faces constant threats from monsters, and the knights cannot afford to fight while hoping to be saved. Dale insists that he had still hoped his father would save a loyal knight. The Duke's response is sharp. He scolds Dale, explaining that by rushing to the rescue, he has planted a dangerous idea in the soldiers' minds, the belief that someone will save them. He asks how many knights with that dependent mindset could survive on the battlefield. The Duke then explains the true duty of their house. Their knights must endlessly sharpen their blades and push themselves to their absolute limits. Only when they have reached that point will he, as their lord, personally step in. That, he declares, is the noble burden their family must bear. Dale listens, admitting that his father's cold, logical truth is right, a fact he'd forgotten in his new life. Just as Dale processes this lesson, his father's demeanor softens. Placing a hand on his son's shoulder, the Duke says he was impressed by Dale's will and encourages him to never lose that spirit. Dale understands and gives a respectful salute. With the lesson over, the Duke tells his son it is time to return to the castle. The story of Dale saving the knight becomes a popular piece of gossip, quickly growing so exaggerated that people claim he single-handedly killed 1,000 orcs. Dale, finding the story incredibly embarrassing, can only try to hide his blushing face. This incident, however, brings new energy to the duchy. A few days later, at the training grounds, Dale is greeted by a line of kneeling knights, welcoming him with overwhelming respect. Flustered, he tells them it's not necessary. Just then, Helmut appears with a wide grin, proudly telling his nephew to stand tall. He rallies the knights, declaring they must all become stronger for their young master, and they roar in agreement. Dale can only watch their intense devotion with an awkward smile. A maid announces that the guests from House Orhart have arrived, and Helmut prepares to escort Dale to meet them. Dale knows this is a special guest. House Orhart, led by the divine sword Bardel, was a noble house from the now fallen Teutonia kingdom, destroyed during the Empire's war. Dale notices a change in his uncle's expression, guessing that Helmut is remembering the divine sword, the man who guided him into knighthood. Realizing the meeting could be tense, Dale and Helmut peek into the throne room. Inside, Duke Allen and Duchess Elena are seated. An attendant announces the guests, and the Duke instructs Dale and Helmut to escort them in. A woman in formal attire with a veiled hat enters with a young blonde-haired girl. The woman introduces herself as Vanessa Orhart and humbly greets Duke Saxon. Vanessa then introduces her daughter, Charlotte Orhart. The young girl has a fierce, defiant expression. Dale is confused by the sudden tension. Charlotte angrily confronts her mother, asking why she is bowing to them, but Vanessa tries to silence her. However, Duke Allen calmly intervenes, showing understanding for what Vanessa has endured. To defuse the situation, he asks Dale to escort Lady Charlotte around the castle. Dale politely agrees. Following his father's request, Dale approaches Charlotte with a polite smile, offering his hand. As he invites her to come with him, her expression hardens. With a furious shout, she slaps his hand away, telling him not to touch her. Dale is left baffled by the hostile outburst. The sudden display shocks everyone in the throne room. Mortified, Vanessa rushes to her daughter, scolding her and demanding she apologize. Ignoring her mother, Charlotte lets out a sound of frustration and runs out of the throne room, slamming the door behind her. In the tense silence, Vanessa apologizes profusely for her daughter's behavior, explaining that recent events have left her emotionally unstable. A concerned Duchess Elena asks what happened. Vanessa explains her daughter's distress. A new overseer, Count Brandenburg, known as the Pig King, was assigned to their territory. She explains that in his twisted quest for an heir, the Count preys upon any skilled swordsman. Vanessa reveals with anguish that this vile obsession extended even to her young daughter, Charlotte. She barely managed to escape before he could touch her, but the memory of such horror is not easily erased. The Duke and Duchess listen with solemn expressions. Vanessa concludes by stating that as a fallen noble, her power is limited. She implores the Duke to accept her daughter as a maid of House Saxon, so Brandenburg may never lay a hand on her again. Meanwhile, Dale finds Charlotte on the ducal training grounds. He calls out to her, and she turns around, still looking upset. Dale asks if she knows where she is going, to which she defiantly replies that she doesn't care. He then asks with a friendly smile if her hand is all right from the slap. She confirms it is fine. As she turns away, he notices she looks as though she was crying and thinks that despite her unfriendly behavior, she is still just an upset child. Suddenly, her entire demeanor changes. Her eyes glow with determination as she swiftly draws her sword. She declares that they should have a match and commands Dale of House Saxon to draw his sword. Dale is left completely stunned by the sudden and aggressive challenge. Standing on the snowy training grounds, Charlotte points her sword at Dale and demands that he fight her. Dale, however, responds with a smug grin, telling her he needs a reason first. He teases her, mentioning the wild tale of the man who slaughtered 1,000 orcs to save a single knight. Charlotte is not amused. She declares her intention is to defeat him, the one said to be unmatched, and prove to the world that she is stronger. By doing so, she believes she can then prove she is capable of protecting her house from that man. When Dale questions who, she names his greatest enemy, Count Brandenburg, the Holy Swordsman. The name hits Dale like a blow. Pure fury washes over him as he remembers Brandenburg as the Empire's dog who betrayed and murdered him in his past life. He is enraged to hear his name here. However, his strategic mind takes over. Realizing they share the same target, he sees Charlotte as a valuable ally. But first, he decides she needs a dose of reality. With a swift movement, he casually turns her blade aside. He then walks away towards a barrel of practice swords, leaving her confused. He picks up a short sword and turns back with a condescending smile, telling her she is just a child who knows nothing. He then issues a challenge, inviting her to come at him with everything she has. Enraged, Charlotte grits her teeth and says she was already intending to. She charges forward, her rapier glowing with a green aura as she unleashes a powerful strike. To her shock, Dale easily blocks the blow with his small practice sword. Their blades clash again with incredible force. Growing more furious, Charlotte launches a relentless flurry of attacks, but Dale, calmly and skillfully, blocks every strike. As they fight, Dale analyzes her technique. He notes her skill, observing that she deflects his counters with precise wrist snaps and is even channeling a faint aura. He realizes she is using this power to compensate, allowing her to wield a rapier too large and heavy for her small frame. The duel continues. A knight accumulates aura to push beyond human limits. Their blades clash with a burst of energy, sending both fighters sliding back. Dale is impressed, recognizing Charlotte as a true knight. Sensing an advantage in pure swordsmanship, Charlotte smiles confidently and renews her assault, lunging with a precise stab that Dale narrowly deflects. She presses her advantage, charging forward with a powerful attack. With her aura crackling, she believes she has the upper hand. A flashback reveals the source of her fierce determination. Her father, the great divine sword, was gone when she was born, but her mother told her stories of his legacy. Her mother instilled in her the profound duty to protect their house in his place. Even when their kingdom fell, her training never stopped. In the present, this memory fuels her frustration. She pours all her strength and aura into her attacks, wondering why this boy can so easily stop every move. She senses something is wrong as Dale continues to effortlessly deflect her strikes. She charges one last time, letting out a desperate cry as she lunges forward. Dale, however, easily parries her attack, and with a single counterattack, he strikes her rapier, knocking it from her grasp. Utterly defeated, Charlotte collapses to her knees in the snow, her sword stuck in the ground nearby, and asks in despair why she can't win. Dale provides a simple, crushing answer. It's because she is not the divine sword himself. He softens his tone, telling her that her pride as his daughter isn't wrong. However, he delivers the harsh truth. As she is now, she cannot protect her house from Count Brandenburg. The words strike home, and tears stream down Charlotte's face as she admits that the Holy Swordsman is tens of times stronger than her. Looking up at Dale with tear-filled eyes, she asks what she is supposed to do. In response, Dale makes a solemn declaration. He, Dale of House Saxon, swears on his family name to become the protector of House Orhart. Charlotte can only stare back, stunned and utterly confused by his unexpected vow. Holding Charlotte's rapier, Dale makes her a solemn promise. He declares that until the day she grows strong enough to defeat Count Brandenburg herself, he and all of House Saxon will act as her shield. Still on her knees, Charlotte asks why he would do such a thing. Dale holds her sword out to her and answers simply, stating that it is because her sword is worth it. He then gives her a condition, asking her to swear to become a sword for him and for House Saxon. Wiping the tears from her eyes, Charlotte considers his offer. After a moment, a small smile appears on her face as she accepts, questioning how she could refuse such an offer. She takes her rapier and kneels before him, making her own vow. She, Charlotte Orhart, swears upon her honor as a knight. While it may have seemed like a childish promise, the resolve behind their words was strong enough to be considered a true vow, sealing their pact on the snowy training grounds. Later that day in the Duke's office, the matter is settled. At Lady Vanessa's request, Charlotte officially becomes a maid of House Saxon. Duke Alan Saxon notes with surprise that his son accepted the situation without hesitation. He asks Dale what happened between him and the girl. Dale explains that they made a promise, and that he invoked the name of House Saxon, vowing to protect House Orhart. The Duke's expression darkens. He sternly asks his son if he invoked their family name out of simple pity. Dale firmly replies that he did not. Dale is asked what he truly wishes to obtain by such a vow. With a confident smile, Dale explains his strategic reasoning. He points out that Charlotte is the Divine Sword's only bloodline and possesses exceptional talent. By swearing a new oath together, he has secured a powerful future asset. What he truly seeks, he declares, is a new Divine Sword that will one day be wielded for the sake of their duchy. Duke Alan is visibly surprised by his son's foresight and ambition. His surprise quickly melts into a proud, satisfied smile as he simply says, "Good." Dale is pleased, knowing he has succeeded. He thinks that with the last of the Divine Sword's bloodline now under their roof, he has struck a fine blow against that bastard, Brandenburg. The scene then shifts to Malberg, the capital of the old Teutonia kingdom, inside Count Brandenburg's castle. The Count is in a rage, smashing a wine glass on his desk. He furiously demands to know how that arrogant fool, Duke Saxon, dared to move first and take Charlotte. A subordinate apologizes meekly. Brandenburg slams his fist on the desk, screaming at his men for being idiots who couldn't even capture one little girl. The subordinate explains that they sent assassins, but they were all killed before they could reach the Saxon estate. He adds they suspect Charlotte Orhart herself fought them off. Disgusted, Brandenburg dismisses his men as useless. With a heavy sigh, he walks over to a magnificent sword displayed in his office, placing a hand on its hilt and reminiscing about good times. A flashback shows his treacherous past, stabbing Han Sung in the back. In the present, he holds the holy sword, Durandal, and asks it if it agrees. With a disturbing, lecherous expression, he calls Charlotte his lovely fiancée and tells his sword to wait a little longer. He licks the blade and vows that he will get the perfect heir to inherit the sword, no matter what. Turning back to his subordinate, Brandenburg gives a new, ruthless order. He commands him to contact the Thieves' Guild and send their men to the Duke's territory. With a sinister grin, he tells the man to pay them whatever they ask and to bring him that wretched Charlotte girl. A week has passed since Charlotte swore her oath. After adjusting to her new life, she has endured intense maid training and made daily sparring sessions with Dale part of her routine. On the training grounds, Helmut referees, asking if both are ready. Dale confidently says, "Of course," while Charlotte gives a determined grunt. With a smile, Helmut commands them to begin. Their swords immediately clash. Dale smirks, deftly maneuvering two short swords as Charlotte meets his strike seriously. Dale unleashes a fast flurry of slashes, but Charlotte skillfully blocks everyone. Helmut watches in silence, inwardly questioning if this is a duel between children. He assesses that while not yet on par with knights, their killing intent and speed are remarkable. They continue their high-speed exchange, their movements blurring. Suddenly, Dale uses a clever tactic, grabbing his cloak to conceal his sword. The feint catches Charlotte off guard, and her surprise turns to fury. Just as she prepares to lunge, Helmut instantly appears between them, catching her wrist and stopping her blade inches from Dale's face. He calmly tells them it was excellent work. Helmut praises Charlotte, but she dismisses it as an empty compliment, asking what she is lacking. Helmut asks if she knows the rapier's true essence. She answers that it is thrusting. "No," Helmut replies bluntly. He explains the weapon's true essence lies in footwork. He breaks down their duel's final moments, pointing out that Dale evaded her thrust and closed the distance. At that moment, she should have widened the gap and waited for a new opening. He continues, explaining that the more she bends and extends her arm with a rapier, the more the blade shakes and the thrust loses precision. With a serious expression, Helmut delivers his final blunt assessment. She will need to rebuild her basics from the ground up. The harsh critique leaves Charlotte shocked and indignant. Helmut continues, telling her that he noticed her posture and footwork are unrefined. Charlotte retorts that she has never had a proper teacher. Helmut declares he is here now and intends to fix her bizarre stance. The insult enrages Charlotte, and she yells in protest while Dale tries to calm her. Helmut laughs, teasing that she looks so cute he couldn't resist. While they bicker, Dale reflects on her potential, wondering how quickly she will grow under a swordmaster's tutelage and realizing he must continue to push himself. The scene shifts to Dale's magic training, explaining the difficult process of constructing a mana circle, which can take decades for most mages. However, Dale has progressed at an astonishing rate. Sophia, his master, asks in disbelief if he has already completed his second circle, which he confirms. A mage's circle power is measured in RPMs. A typical first circle mage has around 300 RPM. Dale's first circle measures an incredible 2000 RPM, and his new second is at 400 RPM. Since the minimum to form a new circle is 300 RPM, he can already begin creating a third. Deciding to experiment, Dale focuses on enhancing his Ice Bullet spell. He formulates a plan to strengthen the projectile's molecular bonds for increased mass and hardness, then project a magical barrel to boost its rotation and velocity. He aims at a distant tree and unleashes his new creation, Ice Bullet, Armor-Piercing Bullet. The supercharged projectile tears through the air, completely obliterating the tree in a massive explosion of icy energy. Sophia and Dale stand before the huge crater, and she wonders what just happened. Dale internally notes the significant power increase, realizing the influence of an additional mana circle. Sophia smiles warmly and praises him, commenting that he learns incredibly fast. Dale humbly replies it is all thanks to her. His words make Sophia pause, and she looks at him fondly. She reflects on his actions, from saving the night to handling the situation with Charlotte. She notes he always seems to use his considerable strength for the right reasons. She admits he frightens her sometimes, but inspires an even greater trust. Overcome with pride, she suddenly pulls her young student into a warm hug, telling him he truly is her proud student. The unexpected hug catches Dale off guard, and he blushes furiously. His mature, past-life mind panics at the contact, internally complaining about the awkward situation. At dawn in the ducal courtyard, Dale stands alone, still flustered from Sophia's hug. He thinks she startled him and wonders if she just sees him as a child. Shaking off the thought, he tells himself to focus on his training. He summons a massive, jagged ice wall as a target. He then formulates a new spell, a variation of his ice bullet designed to function like a shotgun blast. Ice Bullet, 12-gauge 00 buckshot. He fires, and the main projectile shatters into smaller bullets that pepper the ice wall. The icy projectiles then ricochet back towards him. Unfazed, he calmly summons a hexagonal magic shield to block them. Satisfied, he makes a mental note to try adapting it into a slug round next. Suddenly, a voice calls his name. He turns to see Charlotte emerging from the snowy trees. She remarks that she has found where he has been practicing. Dale asks if she has been training as well, and she confirms, explaining she has been practicing the footwork Sir Helmut taught her. Dale observes she seems to enjoy learning swordsmanship, which catches her off guard before she agrees. She then becomes hesitant, trying to bring up what happened before. After a moment, she blurts out an apology for acting out, explaining she has been reflecting on how rude she was. Dale bluntly agrees, stating she has been quite rude, a comment that comically shocks her into silence. He then breaks into a wide, cheerful grin and tells her he will forgive her this time. He also tells her not to be so formal. Relieved, she happily agrees. They stand together in the quiet, snowy forest. Charlotte comments that she really likes the weather there. She explains that she can swing her sword late into the night, and the cool air immediately cools her down. Dale listens thoughtfully, and Charlotte smiles, thinking how nice it is that someone else feels the same. A gentle smile spreads across Dale's face as well, and the two share a quiet, peaceful moment in the wintry landscape. Charlotte remarks on how quickly time passes. From the ducal castle, Duke Alan and Duchess Elena watch them, the Duke observing how much their son has grown. Elena agrees, thinking how perfect the two look together. With fond smiles, they agree to keep an eye on them, Elena believing it a mother's duty to help her son follow his true feelings. Sometime later, the scene shifts to the city's slums. Dale explains that his mother, Elena, regularly provides relief to the homeless, giving them food, necessities, and helping them find work. He adds that starting this year, he and Charlotte have begun to assist her. During a visit, a desperate boy rushes up to Charlotte, begging for her help. He tearfully explains his mother is in grave danger and pleads for her to come with him. Concerned, Charlotte agrees and follows the boy, with Dale close behind. Dale, however, is immediately suspicious. He realizes they have been led away from their escort nights into a maze of alleyways. The fact that the boy specifically asked a child like Charlotte for help instead of an adult strikes him as a major red flag. Dale spots a hooded man on a rooftop and recognizes him as a member of the Thieves' Guild, sent by Count Brandenburg. Dale concludes their target is Charlotte, finding the trap laughably obvious. The boy leads them into a deserted alleyway and nervously tells them he will go get his mother. The moment he disappears, several cloaked thugs emerge from the shadows, surrounding Dale and Charlotte. Their green-haired leader mockingly asks what such precious children are doing in such a dangerous area. He tells Dale their business is only with Charlotte and advises him to leave quietly. Dale responds with a confident, dark smile. He stands protectively in front of Charlotte and reaffirms his vow, declaring that he, Dale of Saxon, will protect the daughter of House Orhart. The leader sarcastically praises Dale's chivalry, but then warns him he should have considered the circumstances before making such a bold stand. With a sinister grin, the leader says it looks like Dale needs to experience some of the world's pain as his men draw their daggers. As the thugs prepare to attack, Charlotte whispers to Dale that she left her sword behind. Dale, unfazed, sits down casually and tells her not to be scared. He internally notes this is the perfect opportunity to test a new self-defense technique. The assassins then leap from the rooftops, moving in to attack. As the assassins leap down, a swirling vortex of dark purple energy erupts from Dale's shadow cloak. The sudden power startles the thugs. The green-haired leader, realizing the danger, panics and screams at his men to dodge. Dale is inwardly impressed by the leader's quick reaction, concluding he must be a high-ranking thief. The assassins scramble to leap away, but one is caught by the swirling shadows. Dale explains to himself that this is a new technique he discovered after reaching his second mana circle, allowing him to implant parasitic shadow creations into the wind. A horrifying, fanged shadow creature materializes and descends upon the trapped assassin, entering his body and inflicting undeath from the inside as he lets out a final, agonized scream. The gruesome display leaves the leader and his men horrified. The shadows around Dale then coalesce and transform into a massive, muscular undead monster with glowing purple eyes and sharp claws, letting out a terrifying shriek. The assassins stare in terror, one identifying the creature as undead while being overcome by its palpable hunger. The leader furiously orders his men to kill the creature, and they reluctantly rush forward. Frustrated, the leader decides to handle it himself, believing even the Duke's son will die from a blade swing. He leaps into action, creating multiple illusions that surround Dale in the alley. He is confident no one can see through his advanced assassination techniques and unleashes a volley of glowing green, aura-infused daggers at Dale. However, Dale remains calm. The shadows from his cloak whip around him, forming an impenetrable barrier that effortlessly blocks every dagger. The leader can only curse in shock and frustration as his ultimate attack is neutralized. As his initial attack fails, the leader leaps back, but Dale doesn't give him a moment's rest. A bright blue magic circle forms at his foot. He unleashes a powerful shotgun-like blast of ice projectiles, a spell he calls Double-Barrel 12-Gauge Buckshot. The volley of icy bullets peppers the leader's body mid-air, piercing him in multiple places and sending him crashing to the ground. From a safe distance, a worried Charlotte peeks out from behind a corner, calling Dale's name. The alley is now littered with bodies, and while Dale stands over the fallen leader, his summoned undead creature gruesomely devours another assassin. The leader, however, staggers to his feet, wounded. Dale calmly notes to himself that aura wielders are sturdy and wouldn't die from a single shot. Bleeding from his mouth, the thief defiantly declares that it is not over yet. Before the leader can act, Dale unleashes the full power of his shadow cloak once more. A furious storm of sharp, dark tendrils erupts, instantly slicing through the remaining thugs. In a coordinated attack, the undead monster also dispatches the last of the standing thugs, grabbing one and killing him before letting out a roar of insatiable hunger as it devours its victim. With the battle over, Dale turns to Charlotte. He walks over to where she is sitting, looking shaken, and gently asks if she is okay. She quietly confirms she is. Just then, the sole surviving assassin makes a desperate attempt to flee, screaming in terror. Unconcerned, Dale casually forms an ice bullet with his foot, firing it with perfect precision to pierce the man's leg and bring him down. The massive undead creature grabs the incapacitated man, who begins to beg for his life. Dale, with a calm and commanding presence, simply tells the monster to return. As the creature recedes back into his shadow, the terrified survivor immediately offers to tell Dale everything he knows. Dale approaches him and asks if he truly means everything he knows. As the man eagerly agrees, Dale, deciding he is not interested in what a low-level thug might know, raises a hand and fires one last fatal ice bullet through the man's head. Standing over the body, he coldly states that he is not particularly interested, bringing the confrontation to a decisive and ruthless end. He unleashes a magical explosion that finishes off the last thief, shocking Charlotte. He tells her this is the true face of the Duchy of Saxon, but also the power that will protect her, and asks if she is scared. She admits she is a little, but it's okay, because he did it to protect her. She repeats her vow: if his family becomes her shield, she will become his sword. She thanks him for showing her a future and declares she will become stronger. He watches her, thinking his acceptance of Charlotte was partly due to the guilt he felt towards Sir Battle, whom he killed in his past life. Her volunteering to be his sword carried a much greater meaning than he could have imagined. Meanwhile, in his castle, Count Brandenburg curses the situation as he reads a letter. It's an invitation to Saxon Castle, a summons from the Black Duke to hold him accountable for the attempted kidnapping. Brandenburg realizes that even as the Empire's holy sword, he had to comply. A few days later, Count Brandenburg arrives. The Duke, on his throne with Dale beside him, welcomes him. Brandenburg sarcastically replies that nothing is more urgent than a summons from the Duke, thinking to himself that Dale and Charlotte are cunning little brats. The Duke continues, noting the great concern within the Empire about the recent kidnapping attempt in his lands. He adds that he can guess why he was summoned, contemptuously wondering how he, the Emperor's loyal sword, could be involved in such an indecent matter. As he speaks, a dense, dark aura emanates from the Duke and spreads through the hall. Brandenburg is startled. His followers ask, "Why is there wind?" as shadows surround them, terrifying them. The knights scream for help as the shadows devour them, and Brandenburg realizes his Holy Magdalena Knight Order has been easily defeated. He recognizes the powerful dark magic. Duke Saxon is casting a high-level dark spell called Ryle's Tempest. The Duke orders Count Brandenburg to kneel and stay still. Brandenburg protests angrily. The Duke coolly replies, "Didn't you hear me?" and warns him there won't be a next time. Brandenburg curses silently as he is forced to kneel, thinking he never expected such humiliation. The Duke, on his throne, reminds him he was summoned for the sake of peace, and issues a direct threat, vowing to slaughter every member of the Brandenburg family if the Count ever harms the children of Saxon again. He expresses his hope the Count will take this warning seriously, then sarcastically invites the exhausted Count to warm himself. Brandenburg angrily replies that he is grateful for the Duke's generosity, but it is difficult for him to stay any longer. The Duke dismisses him. Dale watches, thinking that what his father just did to one of the Emperor's most loyal followers will become the fuse that shakes the entire empire, and that their role will be to sever the head of the Sword of Sanctity. By the time the news of Brandenburg kneeling before the Black Duke spread, the Duke was in his office with teacher Sepia. The Duke explains that the corpses before her are the thieves who attacked Dale, and confirms Dale is responsible. She notes the gruesome scene and questions if her teachings to Dale were wrong. He explains that to guide Dale's talent, they need her wisdom, and offers her the position of chief advisor. Shocked, Sepia realizes this means becoming a member of the Saxon family. He explains Dale relies on her greatly, and that guiding him is beyond his power alone. She agrees, aware that her task of knowing how Dale sees this world has now become more critical than ever. Time passes, and Dale's 10th birthday arrives in a lavish banquet hall. This year, people from the Emperor's faction were present. Among them was Marquis Ulysse, who greets young Lord Dale, expressing his pleasure in meeting him. Meanwhile, the guests admired the fine food, praising the Duke's generosity. Dale watches, thinking these are the central nobles from the imperial capital, the core of the Emperor's faction. He realizes their coming is an implicit warning from the imperial family that they will not stand by regarding the humiliation of Count Brandenburg. Standing before him is the messenger who understands this message, Marquis Ulysse. The Marquis studies Dale, saying, "So, this is the young Lord Dale," and introduces himself as the Crimson Lord. Dale thinks about the Marquis's identity, the head of the Red Magic Tower, whose mages follow the might is right spirit prevalent in the Empire. He remembers from his past life undergoing forced magical modifications at their hands. Marquis Ulysse addresses Dale, saying he has heard about the miracle genius of the ducal family, and mentions the rumors of Dale, at only 9, wiping out a horde of orcs to protect one of the family's knights. Dale thanks him politely and wishes him an enjoyable time. He walks away, thinking how exhausting it is to receive birthday congratulations this way every year. He would rather be training with Charlotte, but her official status as a lady-in-waiting prevents that. More importantly, it would be dangerous for the sword god's daughter to be seen practicing swordsmanship. Suddenly, he hears a scream and a man's voice ordering a maid to stay still. Dale follows the sound to find a man attacking a maid who is on the floor, begging him to leave her alone, reminding him that she serves House Saxon. The fat man yells at her, wondering how a lowly maid dares to speak the Duke's family name. He complains that it's better to play with a girl than waste time at the party, and threatens to slaughter her if she resists. As the man orders the maid to submit, Dale intervenes, asking coldly, "What do you think you're doing?" The man, Pietro, is shocked and tries to worm his way out, rudely asking Dale if he has ever enjoyed a woman since he is still young. He offers to teach him personally, all while holding the trembling maid, Eve, and threatening her with a knife. Dale ignores his provocation and reassures Eve not to worry. He thinks that since this is a class-based society, Pietro would never imagine that he, a noble, would attack him, an imperial guest. He exploits this hesitation and casts an ice spell, hitting Pietro. Pietro falls, and Dale realizes attacking the Emperor's man is not a good option. Pietro gets up angrily, and Dale coldly orders him to kneel and apologize to Miss Eve, clarifying she is one of the people of House Saxon. Pietro protests, reminding him he is here on behalf of the Emperor, and that insulting him to protect a lowly maid is tantamount to... Dale cuts him off sarcastically. Does His Majesty the Emperor have a hobby of raping other people's maids? Pietro is shocked and accuses him of daring to say such a thing. At that moment, Duke Jackson, Marquis Ulysse, and the rest of the guests arrive. Marquis Ulysse comments with a smile that this is an interesting spectacle. The Duke asks his son about the commotion. Dale explains that Pietro was trying to assault a maid of House Saxon. One of the nobles asks Dale sarcastically if he is treating Sir Pietro with such contempt for such a trivial reason. Pietro seizes the opportunity and complains to the Duke. Dale interrupts him sternly, "Who allowed you to stand?" He addresses the guests, explaining that nobles from the imperial capital represent the Emperor. However, Pietro tried to tarnish the Emperor's reputation by assaulting a lowly maid, and for this reason he could not tolerate his disgraceful behavior. Marquis Ulysse laughs, commenting that the young lord's wit is a masterpiece and confirms his words are absolutely correct. He adds, "How dare someone representing His Majesty try to assault a mere lowly maid?" He calls his attendant to Lara and orders him to kill this insect Pietro. Pietro screams for help. Ulysse launches a fire attack, and Pietro screams in pain as he burns. Ulysse declares that the young lord's words are 100% correct, and it is his duty to burn the insects who try to insult the imperial family and the empire. Marquis Ulysse concludes the scene, expressing his high hopes for young Lord Dale's future. After the commotion died down, the Emperor's men left, and peace returned to Duke Saxon's castle. Afterward, one morning, the maid Eve wakes the young Lord Dale. He thanks her, noticing her hesitation, and asks if there is something she wants to say. Eve hesitantly expresses her pride in serving him. He wonders about her hesitation, thinking that while he has been in this world a long time, he is still not used to such respect. He understands the weight of the Saxon name and will use everything to bring down the empire. Later, the Duke summons Dale to his office, telling him his recent actions have been strange. Dale surprises him by asking if he knew that if the otherworldly hero hadn't died, the Duchy of Saxon would have been his next target. The shocked Duke asks what makes him so sure. Dale hesitates, thinking that the reason is he heard in his past life that the Empire was plotting against House Saxon. He explains that the Empire disposed of the hero, fearing the hunting dog would get out of control. He adds that despite the hero defeating the Demon King, the Empire didn't eradicate the darkness in the Demon King's lands. Instead, it ordered the Saxons to reclaim those lands, forcing them to drain their resources. Dale concludes that just as the Empire disposed of the hero, it will try to eliminate the Saxons. The amazed Duke asks how he knew the hero was disposed of. Dale replies it is his guess based on his readings, because the official narrative, that the hero died an honorable death, seems illogical. Dale continues, saying that if his guess is correct, then the Empire's justice is nothing but tyranny. The Duke, thinking his son possesses the wisdom of ages, asks for his opinion on what path House Saxon should take. Dale boldly replies they must destroy the Empire. The shocked Duke asks if he realizes what he is saying. Dale clarifies he isn't suggesting a rebellion now, but in 10 years. He explains that resistance forces still exist across the continent, and many lords fear the Empire. He adds that the economy is shrinking, banditry is increasing, and war scars are worsening. He suggests that until the right time comes, they must build their strength by helping the resistance. He continues explaining his plan until sunset, then asks for his father's opinion. The Duke laughs, expressing that his son's talent is immeasurable, and he sees much farther than he can. He expresses immense pride and says he will now treat him not as a child, but as the future head of House Saxon. Dale realizes this is the moment he has been waiting for, the right to wield the power of House Saxon. The Duke asks him to speak his decision for their family. Dale smiles, reminding his father he promised to treat him as an equal, and requests permission to participate in the tower trial in Necropolis. The shocked Duke reminds him it is an extremely dangerous place where he could easily lose his life, adding it is too early for Dale, who hasn't even completed the third circle. Dale confidently replies he will reach it soon. The Duke points out that reaching the third circle usually doesn't happen until the mid-20s. Dale insists, explaining it is a decision for him, his father, and House Saxon. He explains that if he proves himself through the trial, the Duke's status will be solidified, and he will gain a trustworthy reputation. The Duke agrees, leaving the judgment to him. A few days later, they arrive in Necropolis. Dale yawns, thinking he overdid it. The people in Necropolis notice them, with one wondering if the rumors of Dale being a magical genius are true, while another comments on his miserable appearance. Felix, the top graduate, declares he deserves to win, not the duchy's weak-looking brat. Dale and his father arrive at the tower, greeted by Iris, an elder of the tower and the Secretary General. The Duke tells Dale that Iris will assist him during the test. She leads Dale to a huge hall with 59 other graduates. Iris welcomes everyone and explains the first-floor test, a battle royale to steal life points. Each contestant has a pendant with 1 life point and a shield. A valid hit from a corpse destroys the opponent's pendant, eliminating them. The attacker gains a point. Collecting 3 points qualifies for the next floor. The use of artifacts is prohibited. The contestants whisper about Dale, calling him a monster for reaching the third circle at his age. Felix suggests they team up to take him down. Someone wonders about the safety of attacking the young lord, but Felix dismisses this, asserting they are all equal competitors. Dale overhears, praises their confidence, and mentally challenges them. Iris announces the start. The contestants raise corpses as undead soldiers. Felix, noticing Dale hasn't moved, sends his undead soldier at him. He is shocked when Dale's undead soldier blocks the attack. Realizing Dale is using water magic, his soldier freezes, then shatters. Felix yells, accusing him of cheating by using water magic. Dale coolly asks Iris if there is a rule stating undead can only be enhanced with dark magic. Iris remains silent. Dale concludes he is in the right. Felix orders his colleagues to block Dale's ice-enhanced soldier while they target Dale directly. Dale thinks that since artifacts are forbidden, he will fight himself. He rushes towards the attacking undead, gracefully dodging and snatching a sword. He hits one with a black magic-enhanced punch, then cuts down another with ease. One contestant is shocked at how easily his undead was cut. Felix thinks Dale's sword isn't ordinary. Iris notes Dale reconfigured the bones to increase its durability. He leaps into the air and brings his sword down on another undead, leaving Felix shocked, having lost all his soldiers. Felix wonders in terror if it's logical for a mage to be this skilled with a sword. Dale advances towards the broken Felix, who begs for mercy. Dale mocks him, saying he won't die because of the protective pendant. He swings his sword at Felix's head. Felix is defeated, his pendant destroyed, calling him a monster. Iris declares that Lord Dale is the sole survivor who passed the test with 60 life points. Dale thinks this place will be his first step. The scene shifts to the second floor of the tower trial, requiring the defeat of a flesh golem. He thinks that usually the survivors from the first floor team up, but he eliminated them all. All types of magic are allowed here, and he considers this an opportunity to form the third circle and test his potential. The golem attacks, but Dale dodges and injures the golem's arm. He smiles and casts a new spell, Accelerated Decay. The observer, Iris, notes that the magic is not ordinary. The golem's body corrodes, and Iris wonders why Dale chose to corrupt the target instead of dismembering it. Dale thinks about how biochemical warfare was a key strategy in his past life. He wonders if the observers realize that the horrors of biochemical warfare are now being expressed through black magic. Dale completed the trial, setting a record by reaching the 10th floor and was granted 4 days of rest. A rare retest was granted to the 59 other contestants. That night, Dale was standing alone by a fountain. Teacher Sepia congratulates him on his outstanding performance. He thanks her, attributing his success to her teachings. He then surprises her by asking her on a date to a festival. Sepia agrees, thinking he is too young to understand the meaning of a date. They arrive at the Necropolis City Festival. Dale comments that the moon looks beautiful tonight. He thinks about how difficult it is to keep the conversation going. He thinks that silence with Sepia was never awkward because she always trusted him completely, and for that reason, he wanted to become closer to her. He remembers reaching the third circle and encountering the scenery of the mind. He had to surpass his limits by releasing mana, known as mana overflow. As he did this, he found himself in a strange place, his mental world, the world of enlightenment. His world was empty, and in that void, teacher Sepia was the only one who reached out to him. Back at the festival, Dale looks at Sepia and thinks that maybe this is why he wants the teacher who illuminated his world. He suddenly declares, "I love you." Sepia is shocked and asks what he said. He repeats his confession. Sepia smiles gently, hugs him, and tells him she is also very fond of him. A few days later, on the day of the 11th floor trial, Dale thinks nothing has developed between them. He guesses she considered it just a childish crush,